In the last video, we saw how to use simple Python statements like print and also made a simple animation. Now let's dive into specific topics of Python. Today we are going to learn about variables and data types. So let's begin with an example. Let, let us say we want to print a greeting for a person named Mahesh. Good morning, Mahesh. So now if you come here and run this HON, we get the greeting printed to the screen. Now let us say that we not only want to uh, say good morning to Mahesh, but also a few more things like how are you, Mahesh, and did you eat lunch today, lunch Mahesh. So three different greetings, and then when we run this code, as expected, we get those three greetings printed to the console. But this is very rigid, right? If we wanted to say not greet Mahesh, but make a program that generally greets someone whose name might be anything, we might have to make changes to a lot of places, right? If we wanted to, let us say, if we wanted to greet Ramesh instead, so we'll have to change all those Maheshes to Ramesh, Ramesh, Ramesh. Then we'll copy and paste it everywhere. And then this changed. But this is very tedious, right? So what's the solution? Variables. So in Python, to declare a variable, we write the name of the variable. So let's call this variable name itself, or not to confuse this with the name of the variable, let's call this first name. First name equals to then Ramesh Ramesh. Notice these quotation marks over here. These define that this thing over here is a string. String is a data type, but let's get to data types in a bit. For now, let's understand what a variable is. So you can think of variables as a box. So a box in which you can store different values. The values can be anything, a string, name, a number like 2, or a boolean value like true. Anything can be stored in this box, and this box itself has a name, like let us say X. So whenever in our program we use the name of this box to say something like Z equals to X plus Y. Y over here is the name of this box, and this box, let us assume for now, has the value 5 stored in here, and the Y is also a variable, which is another box over here, which has the value 7 stored in it. So what this statement or expression means is that we want to create another box called Z, which will have the value 7 plus 5, so 12. So this value 12 will get stored in this box, and then whenever we use the variable's name Z afterwards in the program, we will get the access to this value 12. So coming back to this program, so now let us say we want to use this name of the variable in our strings and not a hard coded value. So a nice way to do that in Python is using format strings. So we append the letter small f before the string, and then instead of the name, we'll use curly brackets and the name of the variable inside those curly braces. So we'll just replace all the Rameshes with first name. And now when we run this code, again we get the same output, but this time we haven't written the name Ramesh as it is in our string. Instead, we are using it from a box called first name. So now if I just change the name over here to Suresh, all of the greetings would be changed to Suresh. So this is the basic concept of variables. Now coming back to data types. So over here you saw that we used quotation marks. So if we did not use these quotation marks, Python would assume that Suresh is also the name of a variable. So it would assume that this is also some other box which has some value stored in it and not a string. So to make it a string, we have to uh, uh, enclose this in quotation marks. In Python, you can use single or double quotation marks. It does not matter. Just do not mix them up. So a single and a double will not work. Either use both of them as double quotations or both of them as single quotation marks. So for Python, there are four basic data types. We have a int, we have a float, we have a string, and we have a boolean. There are more data types which are more of collections which can store these data types. So there is also a list and a dictionary and a tuple. But let's not get to those right away. We'll get to those in another video. For now, let's only focus on these four basic data types: a integer, a float, a string, and a boolean. So before learning about these as well, let's also get into the detail of why does a computer need data types? Why can't we just, since anyways in this code, we saw that we just gave the name, we use the assignment operator, this equal to sign over here, it's called the assignment operator. What it does is it says that take this value over here and put it in the thing which is on the left side. So take this value Suresh and put it in the box called first name. So for people coming from other programming languages like Java or C might see that something is missing over here. So in those languages, you write something like int first name or char array first name equals to Suresh. So this is the type of the data. We also, so in Python, we did not define what the type of the data is, since Python is a weakly typed language and it assumes the data type based on the value over here. But it still has data types implemented in the backend. It's not like Python does not has data types. It's just we don't have to define them explicitly. In languages like Java or C++, you define what the type of the variable is when defining the variable itself. And even in some languages like JavaScript, you still use a keyword like var before the name of the variable to tell the compiler that this thing over here is the name of a variable. So in Python, we don't even use that. We just say the name of the variable, assignment operator equals to the value of the variable. But inside Python uses these four basic data types. So again, why does a computer need data types? Let's take a small example. Let us say we have the value variable x which stores the value 5, and we have the actually not 5, let's take 65. You will know in a second why. Then we'll take the variable y and this stores the value 5. Now if we do something like z equals to x plus y, you expect z to get the value 70, right? It's basic math. 65 plus 5, 70. But now you know that computers don't actually store values as is inside of them, right? You know that computers can only understand binary. So A computer, when storing 5, would store it something like 1 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 2 4 8 16 32 64. Yeah. So it would store it something like this. When it stores the value y, it would store it like 1 0 1, and not as 65 and 5, as it does not work in decimal, it works in binary. But that isn't a problem, since numbers can easily be converted from binary to decimal and all. But let us say that instead of x storing the value 65, the numerical value 65, x instead stored the character capital A. Now, if you think of it, computers can still only store decimals, right? Binary, right? It cannot store a inside of memory. It The registered and the registers and the RAM inside a computer can only store binary things. They are either on or they are either off. So to store a value like the character A, what we do is we use encodings. So there are different type of encodings like UTF-8 or ASCII. But what these encodings do basically is that they map the characters, the alphabetic characters A, B, C, D, etc., etc., to a specific number. So A in ASCII is mapped to 65. So behind the scenes, when we say that X equals to the character A, the computer still stores this 65 in the memory. So now, because of this, let us say that we do not have data types. So now when we say that Z equals to X plus Y, the computer would still see this binary number over here, which is 65, and the Y would be 5, and it would say 70, which is wrong, right? We do not want this. We want this to throw an error. We should not be able to add characters with numbers. That's just wrong. So that is why data types exist. So when we know that X is of the data type string, or let us say not let's not say char, since Python does not have a character. Let's only say string. So when we know that X is a string, the computer knows that even though 65 is stored in X, this does not represent a numeric 65, but instead represents this A. So that is why data types are very important. So there is also a similar logic with float and int. Since float also needs a decimal point, what the computer does behind the scenes is, for the 64 bits that it stores, it has one of the bits for defining the sign, a plus or a minus, and some bits for where the decimal point is and all that stuff. But that's the main logic, so that the computer knows how to represent the data that is stored in a variable, since the data is always stored as a binary number, nothing else. So if you want to represent things more complex than a binary number, like a string, like a boolean, like a decimal number, we need data types. So coming back to the specific data types in Python, let's see them in code. So let's get rid of this. So we have a first name equals to Suresh. So you have already seen how a string works. Now let's get to an int. So for an int, we can have maybe, let's say, age equals to 25. So now, since this is 25, this age variable over here is of the type int, an integer. An integer is just a number without a decimal point. In languages like C++ or Java, it also has a specified length, like an integer is a 64-bit. But in Python, it can shrink or even extend based on the size of the number that we are storing. And coming to a floating point number, let us say weight equals to 60.3. So now, since we have a point in here, weight is stored as a float. And let us say is student equals to true. So true represents a boolean value, either true or false. So just take a note, in Python specifically, boolean values have a capital first letter. So capital TRUE represents true. If you write it as true, this is incorrect. This a Python would assume this is some another variable called true. So same for false, FALSE false. The first letter is capital. And another trick, if you want to check the data type of a variable in Python, you can use the type function. So similar to the print function, we have a type function. So we can write the type of FIRST first name is, we say type and then first name, and add this F over here, and let us do this for all the variables, for age, for weight, and for is student. So when we run this code, we can see first name is a string, age is an integer, weight is a float, and is student is a boolean as we expected. So this is how you use basic variables in Python. We haven't touched complex topics like how to change the type of a variable. Let us say we want to make this age into a float. We can do that as well. We want to make this into a string. So not 25, but a string 25. We can do that as well. And also we can perform a lot of operations on these variables like adding them, subtracting them, etc. And there are also a lot more data types like tuple, list, and a dictionary, and even more if we consider the standard library. But let us look at those in another video. So for today, in this video, we learned what a variable is, what are data types, why are data types needed in a computer, and the 4 basic data types of Python. So thanks for watching and meet you in the next video.